Okay, so now we're ready to go on to paragraph number 5. Let's make a paragraph that is numbered number 5. Let's make a bunch of text boxes because we know we're going to need them. Okay, and I gotta check what number are we up to make sure. 28. Did we get up to 30? Yes, 31. Okay, so I'm starting with 32. It is acceptable to boo owners at sporting events. And I think that what the author really means is owners of teams at sporting events. So this is another case in which it's acceptable to boo at sporting events. Let's see if the author provides evidence. Why might I hold the claim that it's acceptable to boo owners? Probably not really fair on a human decency basis, but if you have the ego to put your face in a franchise, you should probably be able to take what comes with it. Virginia McCaskey is, of course, an exception unless you like screaming at little old ladies. I don't think that parentheses about Virginia McCaskey, I don't know who Virginia McCaskey is, but she must be a team owner of some sort, is really part of the argument. It's not evidence, but there is evidence in that one sentence. Owners of teams have large egos. How do we know that? The author gives evidence for that. Owners of teams put their face on franchises. Okay, so we're going to move that over there. So they have large egos. What other claims? And immediately I'm thinking, what does it matter if we have large egos? People with large egos should be able to tolerate. There's a couple of different ways to do this. I'm going to do this in the most precise ways. To tolerate what comes with owning a franchise, and owning a franchise comes with getting booed. Okay? So a lot of, that's actually, 36 is definitely unstated. 35 is pretty much stated. 33 is stated, 34 is stated. Okay, so this 32 is going to give evidence to 1. How are 33, 34, 36, 35 related? Okay. Do any of them give evidence for each other? And yes, 34 is reason to believe 33. So I'm going to go like that. Go like this. Okay. 35, is there any reason that people with large egos should be able to tolerate? Not particularly. Is there any evidence given that owning a franchise comes with being booed? Nope. Okay. But all three of these needs to function together. So say someone says, listen, why should owning a franchise come with getting booed? Why should those two things be related? Just because you own a franchise doesn't mean that you necessarily should get booed. What about people say, well, what is it about a large ego? If you have a large ego, it just means you think wonderfully of yourself. There's nothing to do with whether you should be able to tolerate something. Okay? And if owners of teams don't have large egos, if they're known to be incredibly humble people, then none of these matter. All of these are dependent. And they give evidence to that. These are all reasons. The author intends this to be evidence. Remember, we're still not judging the evidence at all. We're not evaluating. We're just trying to see what the author is saying. And the author is saying it's okay to boo owners of teams. Why? Because they have big egos and they should be able to tolerate it. I'm going to go ahead and put this argument just to the side over here to try to use all the parts of our canvas that we have. Keep in mind that 32 is going to function as independent premise, I think, right now, just like 17, just like 16, just like, what's the number over here? 2. Okay, so we've got 4 sub-arguments. And now I'm going to go on with coaches. Okay, and let's start looking for some premises in this paragraph. We are up to 37 premises. Try not to get distracted by how many premises you have. Okay, doesn't matter. We're just doing the same thing over and over. Okay, 37. It is acceptable to boo coaches at sporting events. Okay, giving another case in which it's okay to do it. Let's look at this. This is ultimately a matter of individual conscience. All right, that's a strange thing to say at this point. So, in some ways, it's saying it's acceptable to boo coaches, but it's up to you. Let's see if they give any evidence. That's not really evidence for the fact that it's acceptable. One hates to envision their kids getting teased in school, but since I've had my share of My Fair Lady at the Races moments yelling at coaches, I should probably take the 5th. Right, this is a really confusing paragraph. It seems that the author is saying, I've done it, so I can't critique you doing it, so it's up to you, so it's acceptable. Let's try putting that down. I think that's what the author is saying. So let's try to put that down. 38. The author has yelled at coaches. By the way, the My Fair Lady reference is a reference to a famous scene in that movie where a person inappropriately yells at a horse race. Not part of the argument, really. It's just a funny way of saying, yeah, I've yelled at coaches. And therefore, the author can't critique anyone else for yelling at coaches. Okay, let me get some of these out of the way. You know what I just learned? Look at that. If I collect them all, they move entirely. Oh, would have been nice to know beforehand. Okay, the author has yelled at coaches, and now I want to have an arrow from here to here. Therefore, yelling at coaches is a matter of individual conscience. Therefore, it's acceptable. I am trying assiduously to avoid judging this argument. Sometimes when you're diagramming, you see weaknesses. Ignore them for now. It's not your job to articulate weaknesses, as tempting as that may be to do. Okay, anything else in this? No. Okay, so that's 6, and I'm going to move this, and I just discovered a better way to move all of these. I'm going to move it over to this section. Good. I've got that. And do I have any? Okay, so I'm sort of using up all my boxes, which is fine. And then I'll move on to paragraph number 7.